Hey, welcome to the Lewis County Scoop. My name is Eric, and today Wes had on Greg Sharpe. He is a Republican candidate representing Missouri District 18, and he's making a run for the Missouri Senate. He came on today, had a conversation with Wes, and he also is going to answer a bunch of questions that you, some of our followers, submitted in a Facebook post that we put out over the weekend. I do hope you enjoy this podcast, but first we're going to go to the sponsor of this podcast. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy.
The sponsor of this Lewis County Scoop podcast is FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. From heating and air conditioning to plumbing repairs and service calls, FHC helps keep your home or business running right across Northeast Missouri and West Central Illinois. Call Blake today at 573-822-4284. FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Sponsor does not control or endorse the views expressed in this program. The following interview was not paid for by the candidate or campaign and is not an endorsement. The views expressed are those of our guest and do not necessarily represent the Lewis County Scoop or our sponsors.
All right, Greg, you're the rep for District 4 since what, 2019?
Yeah.
And
Elected in 18, right? Took office in 19.
It's been 18 election, and currently running for Missouri Senate District 18. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the family and why you're pursuing the next step, I should say.
Okay. I'm Greg Sharpe. My folks lived at Ewing. I was born in Quincy, Illinois, like most of us around here.
Oh, yeah.
Where I've lived within 20 miles of Mississippi all my life. Have farmed in Ewing since I got out of college from Northeast Missouri State, and sold seed for Pioneer Hybrid for 35 years. I'm living in Ewing with my wife, Teresa, and my daughter Megan lives between here and Ewing, and with her husband Cody and the grandkids Freya and Greta, and my son Michael lives in Mexico, Missouri, and his wife Leanne and Logan and Avery are down there, and he's in the real estate appraisal business and has done well, and I guess he wasn't going to come home and farm with me, so he let me know that halfway through college. So
I see Michael once in a while. He makes some trips up here, so catch up a little bit. Let's dive right into it. We've got some questions on the Facebook post. One of them, Monica Fleer, I think you know her pretty well.
Yeah.
What's been the holdup on the gravel road at Highland High School?
Well, my predecessor, Craig Redmond, told me that I needed to be on a budget committee in the House, and I've been on the budget committee most of my years in the House. Being on the budget, you can get things put into there. I've put it in the last 3 years. I didn't put it in this year, but those 3 times Governor Parsons vetoed it out, and Governor Kehoe put it on a withhold list. And I don't think it's going to get funded, but I think that's something that desperately needed. We had all the details worked out with MoDOT and for a road swap, and the funds were, I wanted roughly $2.4 million to make it a state road all the way around from there by the daycare and the Baptist church all the way around to the backside of Highland High School.
For sure.
And still hope. And as a senator, and I do think that it would have helped if our senator had supported it here, because but it was where the governors could veto it out, and they did, and getting things in Northeast Missouri gets really hard.
Basically, you did everything in your power to get it done, and then one person says, no, we're not having it. What specifically sets you apart, and what are your current thoughts on the trend of underfunding public schools is what they're saying. So that all ties into your amendments 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
You kind of want to explain some of them, or?
I think I've always been a strong advocate for public schools. I mean, was raised in rural Missouri. I went to Highland, North Shelby, Marion County, and Williamstown.
Whoa.
Senator Munslinger and I went to school together, 1st and 2nd grade together. It's where they're the lifebloods of these communities. And there's always been a certain amount of transitions, certainly with consolidation here, back before you were born, when your dad and I were in high school. As far as I'm concerned, it's the main responsibility of state government.
For sure.
Has been the public education and keeping that funded. And we have done that via the formula and we've done it totally 100%, I believe, every year I've been in the legislature except the last one. And I think that's a great deal of concern for local superintendents, that once we start not funding that formula, it leaves a lot of holes in their budgets.
So with them current amendments, let's say Amendment 5 as the hot topic, which is the income tax.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people completely understand how that does completely affect the public education part, right?
Right. Because a lot of that education money is general revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And this takes a direct shot at general revenue. The income tax is $9 to $10 billion roughly. And to eliminate that and switch it, and there was a nice little mailer come out against me and said I was against this tax cut. Well, it's a tax swap. It's a tax bait and switch. And for the rural areas, I see nothing but red flags on this, because a lot of our essentials have been basically not taxed, and that's going to expose them. The governor has made promises, but those are not binding on the legislature. So the legislature will be where they will want to replace that revenue and not raise sales taxes, because most of these communities are running 8-9% now. And they would basically, I believe, to replace it dollar for dollar would have to go to more like a 17%, somewhere in that neighborhood, sales tax on what's taxed right now.
And there's no game plan on what they're going to put the sales tax on.
Well, that is when you talk about the devil's in the details, that is a huge detail. And that will be up to the legislature and, to some extent, the interpretation of the Department of Revenue. And so there will be a feeding frenzy in the Capitol of lobbyists to have their industry exempt. And the rural areas have never done well when it comes to a strong lobbying, because we're seriously outnumbered. We're outnumbered in people, we're outnumbered in money, and it will be a real struggle to hold that line. And I voted against it, and I voted against it twice. So
basically, let's say it does pass, and they're advertising it as no more income tax. But the problem is, it pretty much gives them the freedom to keep doing it until they decide what they're going to do with the sales tax, right?
Right. And temporarily, you could also see more taxation.
Right. You could be paying more. You could be doing both.
In the meantime, and to waive the Hancock Amendment. The Hancock Amendment passed, I believe, 1980. So we've been sitting on it for 45, 46 years. And it was a direct result, pushback by the taxpayers to government spending, and an attempt to control that. We've lived 20 miles from Quincy, from Illinois all of our lives, and we've seen where Illinois' budgets have gone, that their legislature can spend money and then just raise taxes to match it to somewhat. And in Missouri, with the Hancock Amendment, we have been where we have to go to the voters. And going to the voters is hard, and it's intended to be hard. And so you have to make an awful good case to why you need this money. And for the Republican legislature to waive that, it just surprised me. They waived it for 3 years on the first House version. They waived it for 5 years with the Senate version. And I think it will be it's a lobbyist employment security act is what they really should call that, because those people will every industry will be there lobbying to be exempt.
Right, for sure. Which one of those amendments kind of direct ties to 5? Is it 2? Like, people are saying they want, if 1 passes, it's no on 5,
It's no on 5.
Yeah.
And 4 is a reaction. A lot of these things are reactions to. 4 is a reaction to the failure to implement any kind of initiative petition reform, that we have been at the mercy of special interest groups that can go to the voters, and 50% plus 1 vote will change the Constitution. Most thing should really be in statute. Statute is put in by the legislature, signed by the governor. And if you don't like it, you vote out your legislators and you put in a statute to, change it. And a lot of statutes have a sunset, 5-7 years. So they have to come up again but once you get in the Constitution, because our Constitution, I'm trying to think how thick it is, but it's one of the biggest in the country. It might be bigger than the U.S. Constitution, but it's and especially lately, liberal groups have used the initiative petition, and it's been an odd group in the Senate that has killed IP reform. We've passed various versions. I'm not heavily wild about this version at times, but it will, and I'm going to vote for it. But it will basically kill IP forever, because to get 8 out of the 8 congressional districts to agree on something means it would take something blatantly that the legislature did not address. So
for sure.
And we can still, if this passes, we can still do what we're talking about on the income tax, HJR. We can still do a resolution out of the legislature and put it on the ballot. So I'm just surprised that that it's gotten this much carry in Jefferson City, and I hope the voters vote against it on 5.
So what are your thoughts on these other ones? The one in particular, I guess.
The
Amendment 1.
One is it's not a hard yes. I mean, it's not a difficult to vote in support of it, and so the rest of them are kind of more self-explanatory.
Right.
They're not.
5's the main one.
5's the main one, and 5 will occupy most of the oxygen in the room. So it's it will drive turnout. This will be probably one of the bigger turnout August elections that we've seen.
I think a lot more people are paying attention. Now, yes. I know they're usually this is a low turnout time.
Right.
But I think you're going to see some higher numbers for sure.
You're going to see some pretty high numbers.
Yeah.
You got some contested Senate races. You've got some certain contested House races. I mean, our representative here, Keith Goodhouse, I believe he's going in unopposed in the primary, and will probably win the general pretty big. And kind of like I did when I went in, I was ran 3 times unopposed totally, and then once I got 83% in the general. So it's but we've turned into a pretty heavily Republican area here.
We have. So what's good, I mean, for me, I mean, having somebody that I know, especially on the local level, you know, it's good to have somebody you know cell phone on the side when you got a question. And I know you come talk to the people for sure. If they got a question, you're going to answer it, whether they like it or not, you know.
Right. And there's lots of issues when you're dealing with state government. I was involved with a man from Moberly, and he had a problem with DNR. And they do what they do at times. They sent him a letter with a fine. And when he sent out a letter asking for people to go, somebody to help him, and my office, we responded, and we went to the DNR meeting. And so a lot of times when people are watching, there was an off-ramp here in this dispute. So it made it fairly easy for everybody to just kind of step back and redo what we're doing. And as you as mayor of Lewistown, you realize so many things are discretionary on what somebody can make your life really easy, or they can make your life really hard.
Absolutely.
And we want to be as a state, we want to be, pro-business, where we employ people. We're not obtrusively negative or make it difficult. We see certainly across the river here to the east, we see what it's like when you have to, and we have plenty of regulations too, and we'll talk about some of them here later. So.
All right. What about the charter schools? Robert Reed Millard had this. We asked this earlier too, but of course, you're aware of the shortfall in public education.
Yes.
We kind of discussed that.
Right.
Can you try to explain? It's hard to explain to some of the people on these charter schools, private, and then the public, and then they follow a total different set of rules.
We regulate the regular public schools like Highland, Knox, Canton. We put a lot of regs on them at times. I mean, you can't start school till after, you can't get paid for school until after the state fair ends. And because we wanted to have participation at the state fair, we have a lot of ag kids that with FFA and 4-H have projects. So we did that, but charters have let us know that that doesn't apply to them. But they also they're public schools, but I call them public schools without public rules. And they've done, parts of them have done a good job. Kansas City charters have got half the kids in Kansas City are in charter schools, and they've done a pretty good job. St. Louis, it's been a knockdown, drag out between them and Publix, and I don't think, it's just hard where they exist. I'm good with them. I mean, it's something that's kind of like what do they call it, established law, but it's where the funding part of it, I'm just wanting to make sure that the publics get the local publics in Northeast Missouri.
For sure.
And we will never have I think somebody last week said it's a non-issue up here. Well, it's an issue on money, because when we say how much we spend on education, we like to lump that all together and say, this is this big wad of money, so we're spending more on education, but we're also expecting more. I mean, the public schools have to take children with disabilities. They have to take a lot of the problems that a charter or even some private schools don't have to take. And for that reason, we just dump an awful lot on our public school people. And we expect a lot. We got, autistic kids. A lot of them were busing to Mississippi Valley School in Hannibal. And I think it's something that needs to be done. But all those things cost money.
Yep.
And we have to keep enough staff to do all those things.
All right, Greg. So I know we've talked a lot about this Amendment 5, but I think you've got some points on the people don't realize what it will do if we go to a sales tax and what could be taxed. Do you got some numbers on that, or
and I think things that haven't even been talked about being exempted. When you talk services, you're talking daycare. During COVID, daycare exploded in costs, and you add another conservatively 10% on to the top of that. Rents is a service when you rent a house.
That's a big one.
Farm rents around here, if that becomes fair game to be taxable, and people will report it. It's like 1099s. If you want to deduct it, you'll have to report it. So it will be out there. Remodeling services, any more than labor and your roofing services. Car repairs. A huge thing that over here at McKenzie's, the labor has not been taxable, but that will suddenly become, whether it's 50, 100, or $200 an hour. John Deere and Case IH, when they come out to work on your tractor, it'll be at least 10% more. So it's the Ursa Co-op. They do quite a bit of trucking, or we hire trucking done. Well, that's a service, so that would certainly be taxable. And for the other just ag operations on the farm, a lot of that is now custom hired, chemical spraying. That'll be taxable. Fertilizer spreading and custom combining. So it's and parts and farm machinery purchases have not been taxed. So it's going to be pretty easy for the legislature to say, well, we've exempted them up to now. So those will be.
And some of them that you're talking about are already at a shortfall of workers as it is.
Yes.
So they may just say, we're done,
right?
And close their doors.
And you get over on the other side that when they say, same way the governor said, we're not going to tax healthcare. Well, what happens it's just such a huge piece of the economy that it's going to be pretty easy to put that 10% on top of that to come up with this revenue. So that's why you're going to need, I'm urging people to vote against it, but if it would happen to pass, you're certainly going to need people down there that are looking up for your interests. And I think I've always done that here in Northeast Missouri.
Yeah. You talked about the health care a little bit. What do you think about the direct primary cares that, like, we've got one here in LaBelle, and we absolutely love it.
Right, and I'm a member.
Are you?
And I think it's definitely a reaction to where we're at. It's providing that it's back like Doc Adams on Gunsmoke, you're back where you've got good local doctors and you're providing them with a revenue stream to keep them in business.
Yes.
And they are the first line of care that, I think it's something that's, I know it's picking up steam all over the country, but I think Dr. Nice and his family, this is a way. It should be a wave of the future. It should be something that the state encourages and certainly not deter it.
Right.
And but no, I think it's like a lot of things. When you get low on money, you start getting flexible on what you're going to do. So I think this is just a brilliant. And like I say, we belonged for a year or more, and I didn't do anything. And I started combine and needed an allergy shot. And on Sunday morning, I went up there after church and got an allergy shot. So it was good. So.
Doc Nyson come to the shop today. Brenlin broke her finger playing softball, and so he come checked it out and ordered X-rays. And, it's when you say direct, I mean that's direct.
That's correct. So no, it's we're pretty fortunate here. A lot of times we're not fortunate in small towns, but Lewis County's kind of hit a home run. I think they're expanding into Canton.
They are.
They're going to open a branch down there, and the same way there was some grant money that went to them, but I think they're just and it's easy to. My office has been, they ask for us to help, and a lot of those things it helps it along. So
for sure.
Is talking about other good things in rural Missouri is the Regional Planning Commission up at Memphis. Derek Weber's the CEO there, and they've had this housing project, and we got them $1 million through the budget. And I think so far they've built at least 13 houses. And I think so far everyone has been sold before it got completed. They're building one in Lewistown, and they built one in Lewistown.
One's already sold, and we're on another one right now.
And but new houses in rural Missouri has been pretty much a dead issue for a long time.
Yeah.
And they're going into greenfield lots. They're going into places where you've already got the sewer, you've got the streets. You're replacing some houses that are
maybe a little cleanup involved, so it's helping the town.
Right. So it's a big booster. The first one was in Lancaster. The school district up there actually talked about buying that school to put school teachers in because they didn't have a landing spot for those teachers. So it's something that I'm very proud of, and it's good rural development. And we've tried to get it through the legislature and to put it in statute, but it'll always be subject to funding. You have to get something funded. So, but I think that's something that the building trades class in Cahokia, Clark County, they're building one up there, and they built 4 in a block in Memphis, and they built one in Edina. There again, it was sold before it was done.
Yeah,
and it also it creates movement because whoever buys that house, a lot of times they've got a pretty decent house and that's on the market. And it may be for a lot of people, their children have moved away or grown up, and they need this new 3-bedroom house on a slab, and it's pretty
accessible,
right. It's very, very nice. So,
all right, I do have one question from one of the listeners to our podcast that we have quite often is, if the state budget forced you to choose only one priority, schools, roads, healthcare, public safety, tax relief, what would be the top, and why would you choose it, and why?
Well, the first priority would be schools. I've been a corn, soybean, cattle, hog farmer all my life, but the most important thing that we produce is children. To produce children that are educated, that have certain skill set to go out into the world. And so that has always been my priority. I came into office 8 years ago with the priority to support public education and to support infrastructure and funding our roads. We've put some general revenue into the letter roads because they had gotten pretty bad, and they still are bad in places.
For sure.
But we had put $100 million a couple times of general revenue, which $100 million over the state doesn't sound like too much, but the match money that you get from the feds that goes with that has pretty impressive, and it's allowed for a lot of blacktops to be upgraded. So the roads would be my second. Healthcare takes in a lot of umbrellas, but trying to take care of the vulnerable and the people. I mean, I voted for the hospital tax. It's something that we vote on every year. To me, it's not a hard vote because if it's $60 a resident per day, how many of these nursing homes go out of business? They're having enough trouble now keeping them going.
Yeah.
So that was something that the group that probably your previous guest was in basically lined up and voted against that. It's just one of those deals that had to pass. So I don't know why we contest it so much. Public safety. I think the local sheriffs around here I've been very supportive of them, and they're keeping the funds from the state that they get for the. Since I've been in the legislature, and especially with Cody Smith as budget chair, we were behind with the local counties on paying for our per diem for inmates, and we got caught up with that. We still don't fund it very well, but at least we're caught up, and there's still a lot of issues we need to address, and a lot of them that some counties are holding people that are there for mental health evaluations, and it's something that their state's responsibility, and we've talked about building a new hospital, but we've only talked about it. And in budget, I brought up one of our prisons that's sitting empty, and there was 100 different reasons that they said that wouldn't work, and I didn't buy any of them very well. But it was where the state needs to step up and take its responsibility. So then the last thing was
tax relief.
Tax relief in the same way that we, our taxes are out of balance the way that we do it. And until we do the whole package, because some things have been taxed at basically 50 years ago's rates, but cars and trucks and residential houses, they have gotten where they have crept up with inflation
for sure
massively. And I have lots of sympathy. You buy a nice new vehicle and you pay sales tax on it when you buy it, and then you pay property tax on it every time you get your license.
Yeah.
And however, saying that, the schools and the counties are basically living on personal property tax. When you get into the rural areas, that is, for most of them, it's their biggest chunk of revenue. And so until that comes, that's all tied together, and it's going to take some political nerve to tie those things together. And I think I've kind of shown, when I voted against 5, certainly, I've shown that I'll take some pretty hard votes, but I think I've always stood up for Northeast Missouri and for rural Missouri and our biggest industry. I was on the Missouri Soybean Board for 15 years. John Schaefer at LaGrange asked me to go on in 2002, and I was on there, and we did a lot of lobbying for farmer issues. We got the biodiesel incentive passed, and got there's a biodiesel plant at Mexico, and there's one out at Paseo that I'm on the board of, and advocated for, because soybeans is still the biggest crop in Missouri. There's more acres of soybeans than all the other crops put together, row crops. And so it's big business in Missouri. And I think last week you asked somebody if the world was flat. Well, I've been to Taiwan twice on soybean trips, on trade trips selling soybeans. And when we got in the plane in Chicago, we flew over the North Pole. I think on the flat map, you wouldn't fly over the North Pole. So I will say that the world is round. But I've been a businessman all my life, and selling. If you produce a product, you need to sell it. You need to sell it for a profit. And bringing profitability and sustainability to Missouri has been a big deal for me.
What is the main issue? I think I know your answer on this, but in our district right now, let's say District 18 that you'll be covering if you are elected, what keeps you up at night, and what's your plan to fix it?
There's so many issues that I feel like we've been slighted up in this area. And I've lived long enough that I can remember when Norman Merrill was president pro tem here in the Senate, and we got an airport at Monticello. And just a lot of things that we've the COVID was a terrible thing. I mean, I think the reaction to it was probably worse, the cost of it, but it's put a lot of money out here into the states, and we had it, and I haven't had no problem spending it on infrastructure. We got broadband expansion that really was what rural electric was 100 years ago, that Grandpa and Grandma Sharpe didn't get electricity on the farm till 46 after World War II. And broadband is kind of the new electricity. And with the expansion for broadband, we got a lot of that done. But the road infrastructures, one thing besides the Highland Road was a bigger issue was getting a bypass through Hannibal. That the idea that you have to go through 7 stoplights to get to Hannibal. And I don't want to be depressing about it, but to put that much traffic going 70 mile an hour all of a sudden into 35 mile an hour through Hannibal in front of the high school, in front of, kind of like if you come out of McDonald's and want to go north, you're dreaming.
Yeah.
And, but somebody's going to try it, and there's going to be some bad results. So a bypass around Hannibal was something that Lewis Riggs, who's in the legislature, we have term limits, 4 terms. So we're just kind of a big high school down there. So he's a classmate of mine, and he's put it in the budget repeatedly, and it's been vetoed and not funded. And I think our senator needed to protect that. And we've seen an awful lot of infrastructure around the rest of the state that got funded. And that was certainly one that I would like to, but just in so many of those things that we've kind of missed the boat on. And from here on, it's going to be pretty hard. But I intend to get, if I'm elected, I'm intending to get the state in so deep, so bypass around Hannibal that, and we, going and asking the local voters is hard to do because they don't always get a lot of benefit out of it. But it's something that for the interstate highway system, it ought to be when we leave here and we go to St. Louis, we get out of a ball game in St. Louis at 10 o'clock at night. We ought to be home at midnight. We shouldn't have to go through Hannibal or whatnot. So and business wise, the dairy out here cranks out probably 8 truckloads of milk a day.
A lot of trucks.
And all of them are jammed through Hannibal. And I just am frustrated that has not been done and under various administrations, and I'm just afraid that there's going to be ramifications of it. I think economic development wise, it's a winner, even for Hannibal.
It's tough on your roads in the town.
It's tough on your roads, right?
I mean, you can see it right here at the Lewistown 4-way. I mean, when they're coming in fast from this way and it's slowing down, we've got the little ripple.
Oh yeah. And even for Hannibal is a destination. Hannibal has got a great story to tell. Of course, they got Mark Twain. They're America's hometown, and so it's like, I just think it will be a boom for them, and hope it gets. That's one thing I would really wanted to see get done. So, and hope the same way that the right of ways will get purchased, and we'll get the state and the federal government into it deep enough that they'll have to go ahead and fund it.
All right, Greg, getting close to the end of this here. Let's talk about special interests. It's a big topic these days in politics on donors and special interest, and pretty much some people say that you got to play by their rules if they're endorsing you. What's your thoughts on special interest?
Well, I don't think they've ever gained much ground with me. I think that's the reason why when you look at the donor list, and I've had most of my contributions come from individuals by far, and a lot of them are farmers, and a lot of them are business people. And, but yeah, they get things done. The culture of the legislature is to leave almost everything till the end. And that way we have these humongous bills that have got amendments on them that are other bills, and you get something through that you would never get through in the light of day. So that's why, of the people in this race, I've shown that I can vote um, vote for the people of Northeast Missouri. We've had legislation that, especially, I think we needed to protect Roundup. We needed to protect the litigation against Monsanto, and then now Bayer that's bought Monsanto. And Roundup has been the base of every tank mix in agriculture for the last 40 years in Missouri, and some things that the trial attorneys certainly did not want to see anything changed on that. And so we're resisting that pressure. And that's why you need someone down there that's got the back of the district. And I think I've shown that I can do that, and didn't do it intentionally, didn't just want to dig my heels in or what, but I've always taken pretty measured on what I've voted for and hoped. But you can always see that a lot of stuff gets tied together. When I went down there, the second year I was there was an amendment to stop grain belt. If you're in favor of grain belt, a private company using eminent domain to go through your land, if you're in favor of that, I'm probably not your guy, because I had an amendment that was tied in one of them omnibus bills at the end. It went to the Senate, and it made it where if they went through the Sharpe farm or whatever farm they went through, even if you only bought it last year, it became a Century farm, which made the appraisal value 150%. The cost to buy it, to go through it, was 150% of appraised value, and that went to the Senate and was passed, and then they recalled it because of some personalities over there. But it was something that we ended up doing it 2 years later. But in the meantime, grain belt had gotten through the Public Service Commission, and we're still dealing with ramifications of that. There's lots of issues that the legislature does not address, and we haven't even talked about some of them. But there are a lot of those things we have a tendency to, whether it's regulation or taxation or whatever. I'm strong on personal property rights, but and I think we have enough regulations on most things if they're enforced. But it needs to be where the counties have got some guidelines. We put windmills up 25 years ago in Northwest Missouri. We never taxed them universally until my freshman year. I mean, it wasn't me that did it, but Alan Andrews, state rep over in Northwest Missouri, carried that legislation and provided that. So it's made where the windmills at Brashear and Queen City, that they have a baseline on how to tax and how to handle it. Solar panels, we talk a lot about that, but we don't really do anything about it, and we should. And whether on the taxation, on the regulation, yes, they have personal property rights to put them in, but there ought to be some regulations from the state that how far they have to be away from your property lines, how far away from other things. And we talk a lot about it, but when you get them in committees, they do have a tendency at times to work things out, to come up with a better product, and you get to hear everybody. But it needs to be, when we say we don't have time to do it, I've never bought that argument. We have time to do near anything. We just don't always have the will to do that. And when you're talking about rural issues, there's very little will at times down there with leadership. That's why we certainly have always needed more rural leadership, and leadership that cares about what we do. And those are the things that, as a senator, the senators just have more power, and their voices are heard. And having someone that's not really tied to anybody, and hopefully that the voters will think is a fairly reasonable person. Sold seed for Pioneer Hybrid for almost 40 years. We had the same customer base almost the whole time. You cannot go off and alienate your customer base. You have to provide service, you have to provide the product, and if you don't do business with them that year, you had to be where you could come back to their farm the next year and sell them. And that's why I think our door has always been open to anyone that wanted to come in and talk to us. And like I say, with county governments, I think I've been very sympathetic to keeping their funds and the cities, what cities we have, since I don't have a McDonald's and don't have a Walmart in my district, but I will now, so a couple of them. I've been fortunate lately to have been endorsed by the Missouri Soybean Association. Several of the ag groups are gradually meeting, even during this time, with their endorsements, and Farm Bureau meets on the 15th. I've been a Farm Bureau member all my career as a farmer. And so we're hoping that the voters will trust me.
Yeah.
I mean, and more so than just asking the voters to trust the legislation. And I'm telling you, at times they need to be held accountable.
What is your thoughts on a lot of these data centers that are coming in? I mean, you talked about the windmills and the
right, and this is another issue that hasn't been addressed. In the same way that I worked for a couple of years on trying to build a beef plant at Macon, and was surprised that we wanted to go out southwest over towards Thomas Hill into some areas there wasn't a lot of people around, but the electricity, the water, and the natural gas, I thought if you build it, they will come. Well, we found out that we're really pretty much just in time, and data centers fall under that category too, that to create a problem for the grid, that if they don't have their own energy system, that has not been addressed by the legislature. We have not addressed setbacks, and we do have regulations on water, but we probably need more. And those sort of things that there again, it's the thing that a legislature. We've got a lot of smart people in the legislature. We don't necessarily have a lot of wise people in the legislature at times, and when you have something gets built, we're all the time grandfathering in what we do afterwards. And this was something that this year there was legislation floating around, and there was quite a bit on solar, and those things never really happened. And so a lot of those people that have interest like for those things to die, and they did. And it's politically, some of them are hard, but it's things that need to be addressed. And whether I've been wise enough to leave them alone, but I'm usually not. And those are the things that somebody needs to touch. Somebody needs to take on. And there's good legislation with Kent Hayden down at Mexico on solar. And he said, Greg, it'll never see the light of day. And it never saw the light of day. So it's, but hopefully I think there'll be a great state rep come in behind me here, Keith Goodhouse. And, but those are the sort of things that need to be keep working on. To say we don't want them, I'm not blanketly saying we don't want them. It's just one of those things that any more than your business here. Yeah. The internet is something that someone is totally new to me, and
I've heard they can spend a little more money on how they build them to conserve the water.
Right.
And they're going to go the cheapest way to try to make them the most money.
They're going to go the cheapest way, but it's going to create another set of haves and have-nots in these counties. Montgomery City apparently is going to get a pretty big one, and it will be where they may even waive the whole county's taxes after that. But up here, I've got Brashear School District, and it's a 1A school, with 200 some students, and they've got this windmill money, an extra tax base. But what do you do to a Marion County R2 that's a Novinger that's all ag? And it's just we have to be careful about trying to take care of all those areas.
So with Missouri soybeans, and who else did you have there that was endorsing you as far as the?
Okay, well the other three reps in my district that are in my class, of course, I've known them for 8 years. They're all endorsing me. Lewis Riggs at Hannibal, Kent Hayden at Mexico, Danny Busick at Middletown there west of Kirksville. Past reps, Paul Quinn, Craig Redmond, Senator Munslinger. And so those are people that I think everyone will know around here, and people that I trust.
Yeah.
And I hope they do too. But you can't. I was in an ag leadership class 20 years ago, and Ike Skelton was a congressman, and he got up in front of us and spoke, and he said, "You can't know everybody, but if you know somebody that knows somebody, and if Wes says this guy's good, I should probably trust him until I have a reason not to.
Right.
If you say you don't want to do business with him, you don't want to trust him, you wouldn't want your kids with him or whatever, you probably should take a lot of guidance, a lot. You're forewarned."
Right.
And so that's why those endorsements like that, I think, mean quite a bit. So I'm where I'm running again and running for Senate. In my younger years, your dad and I played a lot of basketball together. I played a lot of softball. And when I was on the court, I knew I wasn't the best player on the team. Wasn't the best player on the court. On softball, I wasn't not even the best player on the field. But in this race for Northeast Missouri, I think I'm the best choice, and I hope the voters think that too. So I'm asking for their support and their vote, and remind everybody the August 4th primary, this has turned into a heavily Republican area.
It has.
But more of that, it's always been a very conservative district. One of our uncles, Gary Sharpe, was a state rep here. We probably didn't vary hardly at all on what we really thought.
Yeah.
But he's still a staunch, long-time Democrat. But it's just kind of turned. Our families are all pro-life, and we've been pro-gun, and most of us around here are, and to protect those values that we grew up with. And your grandpa went to Southeast Asia and fought with the Marines, and my dad went to Korea. And a lot of us were fortunate enough we didn't have to go, but I certainly respect and admire, and different people will once in a while say to me, "Thank you for your service." And I'm always kind of makes me a little uncomfortable that compared to the lowest draftee, which was my dad, went to Fort Leonard Wood, that we've really done nothing. Being mayor, being state rep, it's just
it's a small step.
It's pretty small compared to what those guys did. So anyway, I just appreciate you all providing this service that most of us need information, and that a lot of people that come out in primaries for the most part are more engaged by far. They're going to have a big reason to be engaged here with Amendment 5.
For sure.
So we look for a pretty decent turnout, and hope to see people on the campaign trails. We had our first big parade yesterday and my wife, who works like a dog on this campaign, we had a wonderful float, and had a lot of walkers, and we're looking forward to showing up in a lot of these local towns. So, but anyway, thank you all.
Yeah.
Nope, it's God's been good to all of us.
It's been good to the Sharpe family.
Yes,
sure.
we've been real fortunate, and we should always, as Dave Ramsey said, we've been treated way better than we'll ever deserve. And your mother's especially was always super to me at times in my life when I really needed that, and your dad and grandpa, and just Rick worked for me different times. And we've just, it's been great to live in Northeast Missouri. Where else would you want to raise your kids?
For sure.
Than Northeast Missouri?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, you're mayor now. You can't. So,
I don't have to do it forever now.
I don't know about that. So,
thank you for watching this Lewis County Scoop podcast. This interview was not paid for by the candidate or the candidate's campaign, and it should not be considered a political advertisement or endorsement. Our sponsors do not control the questions, guests, topics, or opinions expressed in this program. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Lewis County Scoop or our sponsors. This interview is provided for informational purposes only, so voters can hear directly from candidates and make their own decisions. For more local interviews, news, and community coverage, visit lewiscountyscoop.com. The sponsor of this Lewis County Scoop podcast is FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. From heating and air conditioning to plumbing repairs and service calls, FHC helps keep your home or business running right across Northeast Missouri and West Central Illinois. Call Blake today at 573-822-4284. FHC Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.